That pasta sitting in your cart looks harmless, but some brands are quietly cutting corners in ways you can taste, usually as broken noodles, weak texture, and sauce that refuses to stick. This time, we're not talking about fake Italian branding. We're going straight at 5 pasta brands you should never buy, and 5 that are so addictively good you'll start planning dinners around them. By the end, you'll know exactly which logos to avoid and which ones actually deserve space in your pantry. Subscribe and let's start the boiling water. Ronzoni started in New York in the early 1900s and became a pantry staple for generations. It was the classic cheap but fine box your grandparents probably had in the cupboard. Today, the brand has been bounced through multiple corporate owners and production setups, and the seams are starting to show. Home cooks complain that delicate shapes and even sturdy cuts arrive with more breakage than they used to or crack apart in the pot under normal cooking. That kind of fragility doesn't happen by magic. Industrial pasta can be dried slowly at low temperatures or aggressively at high heat. Slow drying costs more time and money, but lets moisture escape evenly. So the pasta sets without internal stress. Fast drying is cheaper. The outside hardens while the core is still moist. Micro cracks form as it equalizes, and those tiny fractures show up later as shattered noodles in the box or in boiling water. Now layer on the fact that Ronzoni has had recalls for undeclared egg in certain noodles, which is not a minor mistake if someone in your family has allergies. When a brand can't consistently keep its ingredient labeling straight and also pushes pasta through a process that leaves it brittle and unreliable, it's not a harmless budget choice anymore. It's a brand that doesn't deserve trust or space in your pantry. San Giorgio positions itself as old-school American pasta, early 1900s roots, familiar on East Coast shelves, and priced so low it feels like a safe bet. The story on the back of the box leans into heritage, but the ownership trail is modern corporate consolidation. San Giorgio has been folded into a portfolio of regional brands under big packaged food groups, which means it's often made in the same plants, on the same lines, to the same spec as a bunch of other different labels. Inside those plants, the priorities are throughput and efficiency. Dough is pushed through Teflon-lined or other non-stick dies that let the extruders run fast without clogging. That's great for hitting tonnage targets, but it produces pasta with a slick, glassy surface that sauce can't grip. Drying is calibrated around speed as well. Higher temperatures and shorter times get more product out the door, but they stress the gluten network and flatten flavor. That's why San Giorgio's fussier shapes, bow ties, shells, pinched or ridged pieces, tend to crack at their weak points and taste bland even when cooked correctly. You're not eating a carefully guarded family recipe, you're eating a commodity product designed to be fine at the lowest possible cost. If you're going to spend money on pasta anyway, there's no reason to settle for this level of cut-corner mediocrity. Prince and American Beauty look like separate brands aimed at different regions. Prince dominates in New England, American Beauty shows up more in Western chains. To most shoppers, switching between them feels like trying something new. In reality, they're both part of the same corporate pasta cluster that bought up regional labels and runs them through the same industrial playbook. Different names, similar box designs, but under the skin they're more alike than different. When one company owns multiple distinct brands, the obvious move is to standardize. That means shared factories, shared machinery, shared drying curves, and a shared assumption that the average shopper either won't notice or won't care. These pastas are typically extruded through non-stick dies that prioritize speed and smoothness, then dried quickly to maximize output. The result is noodles with a very polished exterior and a narrow sweet spot between undercooked and mush. You see the same issues repeat: elbows that chip, shells that fold and collapse, spaghetti that goes limp moments after it hits the colander. If you've already decided you're unhappy with one member of this family, switching boxes inside the same clone army isn't an upgrade. It's just paying twice to learn the same lesson. On paper, Banza is a dream. High-protein, gluten-free, short ingredient list, loud orange box, promising that you can have your pasta and your macros too. It's built from chickpeas with pea protein isolate, tapioca starch, and xanthan gum to hold everything together. The protein and fiber numbers look fantastic lined up against traditional semolina. The problem is that cooking pasta happens in boiling water, not on a spreadsheet. Durum semolina has a built-in advantage. When you hydrate it and knead it, gluten proteins form a stretchy network that gives pasta its chew and allows it to survive a full rolling boil. Chickpeas don't have gluten. To fake that structure, Banza leans heavily on gums and starch. Those ingredients can mimic elasticity, but they're fragile. That's why Banza cooking water foams like a science experiment, why the pot tries to boil over, and why there's such a tiny window between still hard and collapsed into mush. Once you refrigerate leftovers, that delicate structure tightens into gummy clumps that barely resemble the original texture. If you genuinely need a chickpea-based pasta and you've dialed in a precise method, you might accept all this as the cost of admission. But for most people just trying to cook dinner, Banza is an expensive, unforgiving substitute that behaves nothing like the pasta they're used to. Barilla's story begins in Parma in 1877, where Pietro Barilla made bread and then pasta from local durum wheat. Barilla's origin story is all about durum wheat and tradition, but the blue box you're buying in the US is built on a very different wheat philosophy. Instead of obsessing over high-protein, high-gluten semolina that cooks up firm, the American line leans into commodity blends that are easy to mill and easy to standardize. Those grains are roller milled down to a very fine, very uniform semolina, then stripped of bran and germ so the flour is pale, shelf-stable, and bland. Whatever natural vitamins, minerals, and wheat flavor were in there get removed. And then the nutrition is patched back with synthetic B vitamins and iron, so the label looks respectable again. That's the enriched semolina you see on the box, a sign that the company is treating wheat like a neutral, white starch platform instead of a flavorful ingredient. On top of that, the US plants extrude much of this dough through Teflon or similar non-stick dies, and then dry it hard and fast to hit industrial throughput numbers. High-temperature drying with average quality semolina can lock in firmness, but it also stresses the gluten network and flattens whatever character the grain started with. You taste that as pasta that feels plastic smooth on the outside, goes from al dente to soft in a narrow window, and never really tastes like wheat, just like pasta. When brands on the next shelf are using better semolina, leaving the grain less mutilated and drying it more gently, there's no reason to settle for a product built on the cheapest possible version of the most important ingredient. If that lineup makes your pantry feel like a crime scene, here's the good news. You just need to recognize the signs of good manufacturing. The next 5 brands follow those rules, and the payoff is texture and flavor that genuinely makes you want a second bowl. Garofalo has been making pasta in Gragnano, the seaside town in Italy known as the birthplace of dried pasta, for centuries. The local climate there is famous for a steady breeze and the right humidity for drying pasta the old way. Garofalo has scaled up far beyond balcony racks, but the core philosophy is still visible in the product. They use quality durum wheat semolina and bronze dies to extrude their shapes, which gives each piece a slightly irregular profile and a fine, sandy feel when dry. That roughness is not a cosmetic detail, it's a functional choice. When you cook Garofalo, those tiny ridges hang onto sauce, whether you're tossing it in a quick jarred marinara or a carefully emulsified butter and cheese situation. You don't have to fight to keep flavor on the noodles, because Garofalo dries its pasta more gently than hyper-industrial brands. The gluten network develops fully and sets evenly, so the pasta holds its shape and bite longer on the plate and even reheats better the next day. The best part is that you don't have to hunt it down in obscure shops. It shows up in warehouse clubs, in big packs, and in regular supermarkets, usually at a price that's only a small step above the cheapest boxes. You buy it once because it's there in bulk, and suddenly you're looking at everything else on the shelf as a downgrade. La Molisana has been milling and extruding pasta in the Molise region of Italy since 1912, and they lean hard into control over their grain. They're one of the few mainstream brands that openly talk about protein levels and gluten strength on their packaging. That's not just marketing jargon. Higher quality durum wheat with good protein content, properly milled, gives you dough that can survive real cooking, vigorous boiling, tossing with sauce, even a trip through the oven, without blowing out or turning to mush. Many La Molisana lines are bronze cut, so the exterior has that slightly dusty matte finish your fingers can feel. Underneath that surface, they're drying the pasta at temperatures and times chosen to build tenuta di cottura, the ability to hold on to its shape and texture in cooking. You see the difference in dishes like baked ziti, rigatoni al forno, or any sauce-heavy bake, where cheaper pastas crack or feather at the edges. La Molisana tubes stay intact with a defined core and walls that don't collapse under cheese and sauce. It's increasingly available in better supermarkets and online here in the US, so it's not some boutique import that you have to special order. It lives in that sweet spot where you can afford to make it your default for real pasta nights without feeling like you just blew the budget on dried noodles. Rummo's story starts in the 1840s in Benevento, hauling grain with horse-drawn carts before turning that grain into pasta. Today they market their process as lenta lavorazione, slow processing, and that phrase is doing real work. Rummo uses carefully selected high-protein durum wheat and extrudes it through rough dies, then dries the pasta at controlled temperatures on timelines that would look inefficient on an accountant's spreadsheet, but taste very efficient when you sit down to eat. What that slow curve does is give the gluten network time to form and set without stress. The result is pasta that has real internal strength. You notice it most when life doesn't cooperate with the timer. If you get distracted and let the pot go a minute too long, Rummo is far more likely to still have a satisfying chew instead of collapsing into a soft tangle. Taste tests routinely call out its firm, resilient center and how well it holds al dente, even with small overcooks, which is exactly what home cooks need. The bronze-cut surface behaves the way you want. Sauces grip and wrap around each piece instead of sliding off. So simple, aglio e olio or arrabbiata suddenly feels restaurant level. It costs more than the absolute bottom shelf, but once you get used to eating pasta with that texture, it's very hard to go back. De Cecco's roots go back to the late 1800s in Abruzzo, where Filippo de Cecco developed a way to dry pasta using the cool mountain air instead of direct sun. That early obsession with controlled drying carries through into the modern process. De Cecco still uses bronze dies to cut and shape its pasta, which gives you that fine, sandpapery surface you can feel. Then they dry at lower temperatures and for longer than many industrial competitors, slowing the process down to protect both structure and flavor. Because they start with good durum wheat semolina and treat it gently, they don't have to lean on synthetic enrichment to patch nutrition back in. The ingredient list is basically wheat and water. On the plate, that translates into pasta with a clear, springy resistance when you bite through it and a surface that pulls sauce into an even coating. Make cacio e pepe with De Cecco, and the starchy pasta water and cheese emulsify into a glossy film that clings to every strand. Make the exact same recipe with a Teflon-smooth brand, and you'll see the sauce slide off in streaks. De Cecco is widely available in big box stores, Italian markets, and online. And while it's priced above the cheapest options, it's not in special occasion only territory. It's the kind of pasta you can keep in the pantry every week and know that your simplest dishes will taste better just because the noodles are doing their job. Rustichella d'Abruzzo operates at the opposite end of the spectrum from fast industrial brands. They use organic durum wheat semolina, pure water, bronze dyes, and incredibly slow drying cycles that can stretch to around 50 hours at low temperatures. That patience is expensive, but it changes almost everything about the final product. Slow drying lets moisture leave gradually from the inside out, so the gluten network sets evenly. The shape stays stable, and the natural aromas and flavors in the wheat aren't scorched away. Pick up a package of Rustichella and you notice the difference immediately. It's wrapped in paper rather than shiny plastic, and the pasta looks almost hand-finished, slightly irregular, with a coarse, almost rough cast texture. Run a piece between your fingers, and it feels like a cat's tongue covered in microscopic hooks. Those hooks are what make olive oil, butter, and sauce cling so stubbornly. When you cook it to the right point, the texture lands in a zone most industrial pasta can't touch, dense and bread-like in the core, with a firm bite that gives way slowly instead of snapping or squishing. Simple dishes are where it shines. Aglio e olio, carbonara, cacio e pepe, or even just good olive oil and salt. Because the pasta itself has nutty, grain-forward flavor, the whole dish tastes deeper, even though you didn't spend more on the sauce. It's not cheap, and it's not what you feed a dozen teenagers on a random Wednesday, but as an occasional splurge, it will reset your expectations of what dried pasta can be. Bad pasta isn't an accident. It's the inevitable result of choices in wheat, dyes, and drying that prioritize speed and cost over flavor and structure. You feel those choices as broken noodles in the box, sauce that slides off in sheets, and bowls of spaghetti that turn soggy before you're halfway through. When you switch to brands that use bronze extrusion, slower low-temperature drying, and real durum semolina, everything changes. The pasta water smells like grain instead of cardboard, the noodles fight back just enough when you bite, and the sauce actually hangs on, making each forkful something you want to repeat. If you saw any of your regulars on the never buy list, take that as an invitation to upgrade. Start with Cecco, Rummo, Garofalo, or La Molisana as new weekly staples, and save a bag of Rustichella for the night you want to see what slow, careful manufacturing really tastes like. Drop a comment with the pasta brand you grew up on. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into what's actually happening in your grocery cart.